it cannot be said that with certainty that similes such as these smack of any sectarian disdain. They are more reflective of the period's peculiar fondness for rhetoric and extravagant exaggeration than anything else. The absence of one single truth in Brahmanical Hinduism created sufficient space for plurality of modes of faith in God and afterlife, including the denial of God's existence. Thus, the tolerance of divergent views is integral to Brahmanical Hinduism. Thus, it may be said that in spite of some stray incidents resulting from the heat of sectarian rivalry here and there are no reliable examples of any purposive and sustained persecution, much less a crusade. Amartya Sen says, to quote him, India has been specially fortunate as having a long tradition of public arguments with toleration of intellectual heterodoxy, unquote. Similarly, T.R.V. Murthy points out that in spite of the heroic language used, polemics does not mean that rival systems are refuted out of existence. They are only differentiated from each other. Philosophical schools have attained their fullness because of criticism and opposition, unquote. Buddhism had neither been conceived by the Buddha as a proselytizing religion, nor had it attained any numerical success to the extent that it may have posed any danger to the survival of Brahmanical Hinduism as a religion. The Buddhist challenge to thought was answered primarily on an intellectual plane. Moreover, Indian Buddhism attempted to seek space within space rather than carving out its own space to the exclusion of others. In this sense, Buddhism does not pose any danger to Brahmanical Buddhism during the ancient period. Hostile kings. A large number of Buddhist texts hold Brahmanical kings like Pushyamitra Shunga and Shashank responsible for following deliberate and systematic policies of persecution against the followers of Buddhism. It has been mentioned in texts such as the Divyavdan, the Vibhasha, the Sariputra Pariprecha, and Arya Manjushri Moolkalp that Pushyamitra Shunga slaughtered the Buddhist monks, destroyed their monasteries, and offered to reward those with a dinar gold coins who would bring him the heads of Buddhist monks. Apart from the textual evidence, archaeological evidence from Takshila, Sanchi, Kaushambi, and Deorkothar has also been cited in support of this kind of hypothesis. Many scholars have expressed skepticism about the truthfulness of the Buddhist legends regarding the persecution of Buddhism by Pushyamitra Shunga. The earliest of the texts that mention these legends are chronologically far removed from the Shungas. The traditional narrative in the Divyavdan, for example, can at the earliest be dated to 2 centuries after Pushyamitra's death. Similarly, dinar, the Roman coin made of gold, came into circulation in India only in the 1st century of the Common Era. Most interestingly, the legend of dinaras being offered as an award for the heads of monks is first related in the Ashokavadana in connection with the persecution of the Jainas and the Ajivikas by Ashoka, and is clearly a fabrication. The fact that the declaration was made at Sakal, the capital and base of Menander, a place which was far removed from the center of the Shunga regime, but also in the capital city of his arch enemies, points to reasons motivated by political considerations. Coinrod Elst also points out that the carbon copy allegation against Pushyamitra may very reasonably be dismissed as sectarian propaganda, unquote. The policy of Pushyamitra Shunga appears to have been tolerant enough for the simple reason that if he were against the Buddhists, he would have dismissed his Buddhist ministers. The only thing that can be said with certainty on the basis of the stories told in Buddhist texts about Pushyamitra is that he might have withdrawn royal patronage from the Buddhist institutions. The other king who is blamed for committing atrocities on Buddhists and Buddhist institutions is Gauda king Shashank, who ruled from 603 to about 620 of the Common Era. Xuanzang in the travelogue mentions many acts of persecution by Shashank against Buddhism. The Arya Manjushri Moolkalp also sports the tradition of Shashanka's hostility towards Buddhism. R.C. Majumdar points out that to consider Shashank a persecutor of Buddhism would amount to simplistic understanding of history, as the stories of persecution cannot really be given credence because they rest upon, to quote him, the sole evidence of Buddhist writers who cannot by any means be regarded as unbiased or unprejudiced, unquote. D. Devahuti also points out that the legend of Pushyamitra was almost certainly known to Xuanzang, as it exists in more than one Chinese version, and he simply wrote off a similar curse on Shashank. The flourishing condition of Buddhism in the capital city of Shashank, as described by Xuanzang himself, is hardly compatible with the view that he was a religious bigot and a cruel persecutor of Buddhism. At the root of Shashank's ill feeling towards Buddhism was probably the fact that the Buddhists of these places in Magad and elsewhere entered into some sort of conspiracy with Harshvardhan against him, and therefore he wanted to punish them by such oppressive persecution. B.P. Sinha says that it was probably the expulsion of the Paro-Buddhist mockeries from Magad by the Brahmanical Gaudas which made Shashank unpopular with the powerful Buddhists of Magad.